I just wanted to talk a little bit about a new book that Dr. Mortimer has authored. The book is called Let's Talk Lymphoedema. And the book was inspired to a great extent by an international photographer and author by the name of Gemma Levine. Now, some of you may not have heard that name before, especially those in the United States. However, my guess is you very much are familiar with her photography. She has done over 20 books, and her photographs include luminaries such as Princess Diana, Margaret Thatcher, Henry Moore, Stephen Hawking, and on and on and on. So she also did a book a few years ago regarding her cancer. Gemma now has lymphedema. And she came to Dr. Mortimer and had proposed the idea of them doing this book. I'd like to just ask Dr. Mortimer now a few questions regarding this. Dr. Mortimer, I know that Gemma Levine came to you at first with interest in this book, but tell me, why is it you felt there was a need, and what did you hope this book might accomplish?
The reason I did the book was because Gemma asked me, and anyone who knows Gemma, she's a remarkable and quite formidable woman she knows what's best, and she says this needs to be done. But the real answer is because lymphedema, as you well know, is such a neglected area in healthcare today that it needs more attention. Now, LE&RN is doing a fantastic job in that regard, but I felt there was still a need for a book that explained in lay terms what lymphedema was, a little bit about the lymph system, but to try and do it in a way that hopefully was an interesting read, hopefully in parts an amusing read, and yet informative. So that's why we did the book.
In that regard, who did you see as the audience for this book?
Well, I wrote the book with the public in mind and thinking, well, would this be available? Could they get this through Amazon? And that was in the forefront of my mind when I was writing it. In truth, I suppose it is intended really for lymphedema sufferers, families of lymphedema sufferers, people who want to know about lymphedema, having heard about it. And as you and I know, that's quite a lot of people, because some years ago I wrote a very small little book called Lymphedema Advice for Patients, and the lifetime sales of that book has been 55,000. So there are plenty of people out there who want to know about lymphedema, and hopefully this book's going to be another source of information for them.
I mean, certainly one thing that you did with this book, it's so expansive in that regard. You did ask Kathy Bates, contributed a chapter.
And I asked you, Bill, and you very, very kindly...
I was very honored to be able to contribute a chapter from my perspective of what the issues are that I have seen regarding this field of lymphedema and why it has lagged behind other diseases, both in knowledge, but also in creating the kind of movement that we need to drive the level of research. But one of the things that I appreciate so much about the approach of your book is the way that you have completely humanized lymphedema in that regard. People will get all the technical information they would want to know about lymphedema. However, at the same time, there are also stories of people who have lymphedema. There are also photographs of people that Gemma took of people with lymphedema. And what I find as a layperson so phenomenal about that is generally when we see lymphedema, we see it dehumanized. We see an arm, a leg, a limb detached from a body where the focus is just on the disease. Or we see a figure with tape across the eyes, which is meant to protect the identity, but at the same time, if you can't look into the soul, if you can't look into the eyes, you don't know what lymphedema really means. You need to see the pain and the fear in people's eyes and having to deal with this disease. And the beautiful photographs combined with the way you approach this book just make it a phenomenal piece for the community at large and everyone who is touched by this disease. So I just want to very much thank you for allowing our participation, but also for doing this extraordinary book.
Well, thank you. And I mean, I think you and Kathy Bates in particular have led the way in terms of trying to project stories. So the basis of the book is largely patient stories. They're true stories. Patients have given the information to me. They know they're appearing in the book, albeit anonymously, but they know that their stories are there and that they're represented. I'm particularly pleased with the children's chapter because the children there, all three of them, were happy to be identified. And there are pictures of them in the book. And I think that that's a very moving and powerful message when you get children with lymphedema standing up saying, we need better, we want better. And of course we were also very fortunate, and this was Gemma's idea, to get quotes and endorsements from famous people, from celebrities, including people like Dame Judi Dench, a famous actress like Kathy, from Sir John Major, past Prime Minister, and other dignitaries who may not have known about lymphedema but were prepared to say, wow, yes, you've explained this to me. I had no idea, and I'm very happy to provide a quote for the book. So that creates more interest so that people, I think, when they pick up the book, might sit up and take notice.
Very much. I had dinner with Gemma last night, and so Judi Dench's name came up. And she said that Dame Judi Dench was actually going to India to do a film, and did ask, given the incidence of lymphedema there, is there anything that she could do while she is there to support this cause? So by bringing celebrities in, the kind of notoriety they bring, once you get their attention, I think what you've done is really phenomenal in that regard. Well,
thank you. But I think LE&RN, and you in particular, Bill and Kathy, have led the way on that. So I think you can take some credit for the book because it's guided that approach.
I think maybe what you're mentioning is we really are creating more of an international movement at this point that we are all linked into that is going to drive this to its next phase of being a world priority.
Absolutely. It is a global disease.